You've got some great subjects that I want us to focus on. The physics of water, for starters.
Yeah, man. Physics of life. Life is water, you know. And I guess that's what I wanted to talk about this time, is just what is at the forefront of my mind on health, nothing else, you know. And as I said last time, just really diving down that quantum physics of reality, and it's where it starts, man. It starts with vibration. As hippie as that sounds, everything is given structure from the EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, you know. And so what's the main player? Light, the sun, and then what holds that charge and shape? Water, you know. And what I've noticed as a health practitioner, and I mean, even though I'm not practicing it anymore, my brain is still 24/7 thinking health. You know, how can we improve it? How can we expand it? We've missed the foundation principles, and it is because of what I've come to understand as a massive inconvenience of our modern world. Because to be healthy, we need exposure to the sun, and none of us can. And then when we get out there, we've got clothes on anyway, so you're still indoors effectively.
None of us can. What do you mean by that?
Most of us, I shouldn't have said that. It's inconvenient for most people to get out, because we realistically, depending on where you are on the planet, depending on what latitude and so forth, you really want to be getting sun exposure at 10 a.m. because that's when the UV A and so forth are hitting you, and that triggers your steroidal hormone pathway.
Right.
And this is what blows me out. It's hormone problems are everywhere, and you start to study health and you start to study it holistically, right? But you fall foul of mechanistic, reductionistic thinking straight away. It's the Western curse. So we start to break down health, and we go, wow, when we look at all these people with problems, they've all got hormonal issues. It's hormone problems. Oh, and then the latest thing was, wow, there's lesions in the brain corresponding to the hormones problem. So it's not actually driving from a glandular level, it's driving from a brain level, you know. And then we go, wow, unresolved shock, trauma, conflict on the mind is leaving scar tissue corresponding. You know, we keep doing this. The truth of the matter is, if we're not getting sun exposure at the right time of the day, the whole pathway isn't kicked off through the pituitary.
Right. So 10 a.m. is the optimum time.
Ideally. We need to dial it in more, but it's basically you want to get as much skin exposure, because your skin is like an eyeball, right? So you get this frequency is red through the iris, but it's also red on your skin. You've got these melopsin receptors and so forth. And so as much skin exposure as possible, and we get these frequencies in, because we know, yes, sun exposure and vitamin D, and that's a steroid hormone that does amazing things, but it's just only one of a number of things. So I guess that's where it begins. We've got to start worshipping the sun again, but from a level where we realize that our health is dependent on it.
It's a massive conversation. I mean, our parents probably, I know my parents took it too far in the sun worshipping thing, maybe in terms of abusing sun exposure and putting baby oil on and just getting fried with their British white skin. And now they're paranoid of it, and well, especially my mother and a lot of people in her kind of league of thought are paranoid of it, and constant sun protection, shitty sun screens, sunglasses constantly.
Yep.
Very rarely get any sun.
100%. And that's why we need this greater understanding. And that's why, thanks to people like Jack Kruse and these guys that are really leading the way in this new science, we realize that it's a lifestyle thing, and it's all based around sun exposure. But what a real understanding of how it works on a quantum level, because what we need to understand is when that light hits, it's got to be picked up by phenolic amino acids, and there's all these other things that if everything's in place, it works. One of the big things on a nutritional level is DHA, the omega-3 fatty acid DHA, because this is why I love this language of the quantum, because we don't talk about vitamins, minerals, and things like that. We talk about protons, neutrons, and electrons and things like that, and when those photons are trapped in the body on a phenolic ring, but it's the big part of the complex is DHA. Every cell membrane's got this DHA on, and that is a light capturing compound. It's because it's electron rich, so the electrons capture the photons. And this is photosynthesis, and this is where it's amazing how we're very similar to plants. But
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah,
it's the same physics working, but the difference with us is that we're not earthed out, because that's the other part of it is the earthing. So we're not. We move around, but this is where the dietary thing comes in, because you make a really good point, and this is where we take a half truth and run with it at full speed. We hit walls, we hurt ourselves, and it's like, so if everyone's going to go out and just get as much sun as possible and start burning themselves, it won't work. It's going to be a problem. What you do is you got to make sure you've got a DHA rich diet.
Right.
That's seafood, right? For me, coming from a vegan background, and now I don't think that diet's going to work leading into a 5G reality and where we're heading. I really don't. But at the same time, I'm not ready to jump off the compassion wagon. I'm not ready to jump off my whole mode of operation is harm or suffering minimalization, not eradication, because I'm not in a dream world, but minimalization as far as my impact goes. And so that's why I'm happy with, now I've started to ingest the bivalves, which I don't know if we talked about last time. But
go into that.
So bivalves are mussels, clams, and oysters. That's all, right? And they're the ones, they've got the clam shaped thing. No central nervous system, no brain, only nerve plexuses. So they haven't got the ability to process pain, suffering. You can't really call them a sentient being. We start calling these bivalves sentient, we have to start calling all plants sentient. Now, this is a grey zone, and I don't think anyone knows exactly what's going on here. We have to appreciate that it's just a grey zone, and when the future more information comes, it might change. But at the moment, we know plants have consciousness, of course. Everything that is living has consciousness. So, but it's about suffering. And for me, I am happy with the bivalves, eating them, because I've been a naturopath for over 20 years. 10 years of that was me exclusively studying the vegan diet, trying to fix all the holes up in it. Because even though I was eating that way predominantly, there was times when I wasn't. My quest was, how can I make this diet nutritionally sound? And the problems I ran into were the B12, the obvious ones, B12 and iron. But then later on, I started to realize that the omega-3 DHA is a problem. And so I started to try and solve that by looking at the literature, and so we've got all these plant-based omega-3 linoleic acids and so forth. But the controversy was we don't convert them at a high enough rate, and the algae-based DHA is split at different parts of the chain that we don't absorb well. And so then I thought, well, all the research finally came out on turmeric. Turmeric stimulates elongase, which is the enzyme that splits it up. And so I was thinking, well, would we do this and that? And I tried everything, man, and I felt it wasn't making a difference.
Really? There were still massive holes, huh?
Only because I felt I ran out of time. Because, which we can talk about later, this whole 5G thing where we're getting this Wi-Fi at a terahertz level, it's this non-native EMF is now really out of control. And it's just coming now. This year it's starting to be rolled out. And that is attacking the nervous system, which is insulated by fat, which is insulated predominantly by DHA. And that's what's going to, if you're not optimized with that, you could well find you get, mild neuropathies or some sort of illness, or not feeling well anyway. So I just feel with everything I'm following that we've run out of time. And so then I come across the bivalve idea and looked right into it, and I was pretty happy with it. I thought, wow, that seems like a good solution, because the three nutrients that I couldn't seem to adequately get, and it's not just me, by the way, I'm speaking for like on behalf of all the people I'm trying to help, you know, because everyone's different. I know 100% vegans out there that are doing great, doing really well, but I find they're more outliers. And when I'm saying an outlier, I'm going to hear a lot of people going, oh, well, no, and they'll rattle off heaps of people. But then when I ask the question, how long have you been 100% exclusively vegan? It's very rarely more than 2 or 3 years. So all these big, strong voices that are coming out, I want to see 10, 15, 20 years. Because my objective is I want longevity. I want to hit 100. And so here we go. I find the bivalves, the highest source of DHA, highest source of B12, highest source of iron. It's like...
Are the bivalves.
Yeah, I'm done, man. I mean, okay, there's higher sources of DHA in mackerel and you know, but... whatever.
Mention them again. They're
clams, oysters, and what was the other one? Clams, oysters. Oh, I'll remember it in a bit. I'm kind of new to this.
Prawns wouldn't be in that.
No. And see, that's the thing. It's like a prawn. People don't think of a prawn as a sentient. A prawn has a full-blown central nervous system. Right. It knows what's going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's so... That's why I'm good with it. These are the only shellfish that haven't got a central nervous system. They basically get onto a rope or a rock and then they fuse on, and what's left of the central nervous system dissolves out to nerve plexuses. So oysters. Did I say oysters? Oysters, clams, and...
What's the third
one? Oh, man, we mentioned it right at the start too.
We'll listen again.
Whatever. I've only been doing this for a couple of months now. I started with mussels.
Mussels, right.
Mussels. And, man, not big on the taste. But like I say to people, I'm not eating this because I love the taste and I want a new experience. No, it's a supplement. I'm supplementing my diet.
That's really good to know, because we're trying to work out a solution for Joe. I mean, just breastfeeding, it's been 8 months since giving birth. She's depleted without a doubt.
Yep.
And she keeps being instructed from people in the know nutritionally. You got to eat meat. I know you don't want to, but you're depleted. You're giving so much energy, so much mana, and you need to replenish. And I mean, unless you're eating buckets of spinach and buckets of spirulina and really taking in the good greens in copious amounts, really, you need to eat just a big fucking steak. And she keeps being told that again and again by people that are very informed, like yourself, very educated, and not really a strong stance on the vegan vantage point or the carnivore vantage point, just pure objective fact of like, okay, you could get it from this many legumes and this, that, and the other, but there's going to be the holes you speak of. And they keep pointing to that, but she's been vegetarian for decades, and she just doesn't have the taste for it, doesn't want to. Yet her body's telling her to, professionals are telling her to. But that's good information.
She all she needs to do is hit the bivalves. The protein is perfect. The DHA is saturated. And that'll get her there, because breastfeeding and everything else, it's essential the DHA is loaded.
Yeah.
It's very important for the baby. I mean, the brain, 70% fat, and then 50% of that is DHA, and it does the important stuff. So it's you find that you can try. I'm throwing them in meals now, and I've already learnt real quick how to disguise it. So you get it, you don't even know you're eating it. And I'm talking about 12 clams. 12 clams gives you about 170 milligrams of DHA. It gives you almost your full daily allowance of iron and everything else.
Wow.
So and these are all blood builders too, and selenium, super high in selenium.
Really?
So it's just. It's like the alien gods have said, here you go, eat plant-based, but here's how you make it optimized. And you don't even know you're eating it. People say it's a bottom feeder, it's toxic, and all that. They're specialists at biotransformation. They don't sequester all these toxins and then die. They don't do that. They biotransform. And what I only found out recently is that they don't sequester heavy metals. So they haven't got mercury and they haven't got all this loaded stuff that seafood
Which
has.
A lot of fish do.
Yeah, and red meat, I've not crossed that path yet. I don't think we need red meat.
Okay.
I don't judge anyone for eating it, by the way. I mean, it's completely your call. But for me, and for people like Joe, it's what I'm calling now the bivalvetarian movement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, because I was going to do it once a week, and I'm definitely feeling better for it already. But I've decided now 3 times a week. We really need to load up with this stuff. Load up with DHA, load up with electrons, and then you can handle more sun exposure. And the whole thing is, when you start to get that redness, or when you start to warm up, that's because the UV has released nitric oxide, which dilates all. You know, I mean, you've taken heaps of niacin and all this sort of stuff. It dilates all your vasculature. Why? Because it's wanting to bring more blood to the surface to get that UV treatment and infrared treatment,
right,
and everything. We're designed for that. So the more we do this, the more we develop the ability to handle more sun. And it takes, if you're really fair skinned and so forth, load up with DHA, load up with the antioxidants and everything else. And then just slow exposure, slow. You get a little bit, but you'll build up slowly.
You do build up. Yeah.
And that's the way. And then you'll get it. And then more grounding. Because the other thing that is interesting about fat is that it's when we talk about water and the structure of water and how amazing water is, there's something in water called deuterium, that makes heavy water. And that's heavy hydrogen. It's a hydrogen with an extra proton and neutron, and it makes it heavier. But you'd think, how bad could that be? Well, when we start to look at these nano pumps in the cell membranes, which shuttle electrons through, and that's what makes the charge, that's what driving the mitochondria. If you've got a heavy electron, it blows up the little nano engines. So that's how you start to get mitochondrial damage. So straight away we realize, wow, we want deuterium-depleted water, and we want to deplete deuterium in our bodies, because some of the most interesting research is all on deuterium. And the more deuterium you have in your body, you just don't heal from cancers, from chronic degenerative diseases. It's a direct correlate. And the research they're doing, as soon as they deplete deuterium in someone's body, they start to heal. And from a quantum physics point of view, it just all stacks up, makes sense, and it becomes a word we need in our vernacular now, deuterium, because we need to know how to deplete it. And one of the ways, dietary, fat has no deuterium, and this is another way. This is another tick in the box of those that are following a generous fat diet. You know, they're not fat phobic, and DHA and things like this. So that's another reason why we want to get these good fats in our diet. It depletes that deuterium.
So that depletes the deuterium. What else? Are there any other cleansing techniques or anything like that?
It's about replacing the water in the body, in a sense. So depending on where, to give you a visual on it too, like the more times you boil water, the higher the deuterium content goes.
Really?
So for those people that they fill up their kettle and they boil it, and then they have another cup of tea later on, boil it again. But by the time you've boiled it 5 times, you're really loading out the deuterium.
Really?
In that, yeah.
Huh.
And if you want to do the experiment, pour some of that into an ice cube block and then freeze it, and you'll see that ice sinks.
Really?
Yeah, heavy water.
Interesting.
You've just made deuterium. And so you want to stop doing things like that. You want to filter your water. You want to get good water. But water's not structured. Like the water we're drinking right now from the tap, that's not structured water. Okay, so when I'm talking about structured water, we're talking about exclusion zone water. We're talking about this 4th phase water. And that is H3O2. So 3 hydrogens, 2 oxygens. And it's structured in a way which all plants are. So all the water in all plants is structured water. And it holds extra charge. And the beauty of it is it depletes deuterium in your body, but also when it gets in our body, and as soon as it hits membranes or collagen, it separates charge, positive, negative charge, so it becomes a battery, and it becomes a magnetized battery, and that's what water does in the body. It holds charges. It's a battery, but this is how we deplete it. So depleting deuterium, certain dietary things like more fat, less, like sugar. Plants sequester deuterium in their starch and sugar. So once again, I used to be a fruitarian for a little while. I mean, I love fruit, but that's one way of building up deuterium. You don't really want to do that.
Is that something to do with the fructose, or do you know what that is?
It seems the plants just seem to pull deuterium out of the water or whatever they've got, and they put it in. It stores in sugars.
Right.
And this is going to vary depending on where they are and so forth, and where they're growing, what water they're growing in, and things like
fruit,
this. So you want to minimize fruit, don't keep boiling water, and then bring in structured water into your life. So that's juicing and green smoothies, because if it's the chlorophyll in plants, plant blood, water, that's all structured because the sun structures it. So by doing green juices, green smoothies, you're bringing in a lot of things like aloe vera, amazing. Anything a camel eats out in the desert, because a camel, like they've got those humps full of fat, and then they'll go out and, walk through deserts for ages, not having to drink water, but they'll eat cactus and they'll eat things like this. And then what they do is they break the fat down in the hump and they split it into hydrogen, oxygen, water, blah, 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 and they run it, all the fat runs through the mitochondria, and they keep going for ages.
Without a doubt, when I do feel more alkaline, like that would be my way of languaging it, I feel more resilient in the sun.
Yep.
And it feels very similar to when a plant is in optimum environment, hydrated, it looks healthy and it can handle the sun, versus a plant that's in shitty soil, not getting fed good amounts of water, and it just shrivels up with the sun, or it gets literally burnt with the sun, or diseased. Seems very similar. And I can feel that in my body when I'm alkaline, or just not as acidic. When I'm more acidic, or I'm hungover, or I'm just not as hydrated, I feel it. I feel weak to the sun.
And let's use a different language again. You're saying alkaline or acidic. Let's call acidity inflamed and alkaline not inflamed, because that's the same language again. Because when you look at acidity, that's inflammation in the body. It's a direct correlation. And when you're alkaline, you've got an uninflamed tissue space, holding oxygen and so forth. And that's exactly what happens when you split water. You split it into positive and negative charges and things, and the negative hydrogen ion becomes the most potent antioxidant in the body. That's why keeping hydrated is the most important thing in your health. If you do nothing else, you've got to drink your 2.5, 3 liters of water a day.
I agree. And some people I know refer to me as a bit of a water snob. Like, I love just good spring water or just good filtered water. And every now and then, people that know how much I appreciate, and our whole family appreciates just good water, they give us shit for being water snobs. And then they use the comparison of, like, what about places that can't even drink clean water? And they're arguing that tap water is fine. What do you think on the tap water conversation?
Look, it's
because they've got a point. Like, we're in an affluent situation where...
Look, any water is better than no water. So any water is better than being dehydrated, right? People that live out in the desert, they don't drink water. But you look at what they do. They eat their water. They'll eat certain cacti, certain plants, which have got a certain starch configuration, which binds water in their body, in a sense, as well. So they eat their water through certain foods. So that's right as well. But I always say, just do the experiment, man. Like, there's always going to be outliers and things like that. But when you start to realize that the body is molecule by molecule, 99% water molecules, yes, it's 3/4 by volume, or 65 to 70% by volume of the body is water. But molecular level, 99%. Straight away, we need to start to realize that all of our biology and all the physics of everything that we study on our health is done taking water out of the picture. The blood plasma is like 90% water or something. But we take all the water out. Now we just study the proteins and things. It doesn't work like that. When we understand that the water is holding the charge, because this exclusion zone water, it separates into negative and positive charges, like layers, millions of layers of these charges. But these charges are holding a frequency and a pattern, which is holding information. So it's like that's where all the interesting stuff, and then that gets charged up and expanded through sunlight. So light expands the structured water in the body. And so it's a combination. It's a two-part thing. You need lots of water, and then you need sun exposure, and then you need to be earthed out, and you need DHA. You put them all together and you start to go. But for people that think water's overhyped and so forth, cool, okay, you could be right, because I've been wrong enough times in my life to know that I'm never overly confident in where I'm coming from. But if you've got a lot of wrinkles, if you've got joint problems, if you've got a whole list of things which are dehydration related, I'm not listening, until you optimize it, because that person can then start drinking 3 liters of water a day. Doesn't mean they're hydrating either, because until the water gets inside the cell, you're still dehydrated. So it's about getting it inside the cell. And the reason water is the most important thing before we even start talking food is because the water, when it gets inside the cell, gets charged up, created into this exclusion zone water. It becomes fourth phase water. And then it gets pumped back out and it surrounds membranes everywhere and creates a charge. And that charge is how we suck nutrients into the cell. It's not as nutrients don't soak their way into cells. Like if I pour water onto a cloth, it gets soaked. It does not work like that in the body. Nutrients get pulled in by charge. And so the water is what sets up the charge. That's the battery. So a charge is a positive and negative gradient, and that's exactly what happens with this fourth phase of water. As soon as it hits a membrane or collagen structure, it separates into positive and negative charge and creates it. Now we need a sun exposure, and you increase the exclusion zone. And that exclusion zone also stands for nothing else. It's the most purest water there. Nothing, all the other excipients get pushed out. So you've got this pure force field of energy around all the cells. Because the other thing is you've got to look at, for the heart, this little muscle, right, heart, it has to pump blood all around the body, all around the vasculature, which is the equivalent of going around the planet 2.5 times. That's how many kilometers of vasculature it has to pump. Now, if it was just the lungs and the heart pumping to pump it all the way around with gravity involved, it's not going to work. The way it works is because the inside of all the linings of the arteries are all negatively charged. The membranes of all the blood cells negatively charged. This is like a magnetic train thing now. It's repulsion. Boom, 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 boom. So the magnetism is a massive way of how everything works in the body, and that's water. And so water is the charge, and it's negative. These negatively charged ionic supplies of water around the proteins is what creates the movement, and that's what keeps health. As soon as you get positively charged stuff, that's inflammation, and that's why you need to drink a lot of water, because it's the best antioxidant. Once it's structured, it creates this free negative hydrogen ions, and then you're away, and then you start pulling water into the cell, and you can keep hydrated. Every now and then a pinch of sea salt or something like that in the water, keep the sodium and the electrolytes up. But you will be going to the toilet 6-7 times a day, and people go, I don't want that, I can't. Another inconvenient problem.
Right.
Okay, and you will be dehydrated, because a sign of hydration is you are urinating
Clearing
often.
out the system.
Yeah. But you feel so much better. Like you look great. You look really young. It's the water, man.
I drink tons of water. We go through one of those big 15-liter tanks of water every day.
Because the more, as soon as you're going to do something, whether it's digest food, you need more water now, because that is going to require more water for the metabolism. As soon as you get stressed, you now need more water, because the stress hormone is going to break down compounds and catalyze all these hormone pathways, which need to be dealt with and split up, and that needs more water. So, and the thing is, you might have enough water, but have you got enough free water?
Right.
You need free water. So as soon as you go to do something, you've got that water there to be utilized, because a lot of water is bound. And it can't be freed up now. It's bound, holding.
Explain that a bit more for people that just don't have a clue what we're talking about. Like how does water get bound up?
Because nothing in the body will move, work, or hold a charge without water. So water needs to surround everything and because, like I said, 99.9 or something percent are water molecules.
Yeah.
Our whole chemistry of life is based on water, but it's not normal tap water. It's water that is holding a charge. It's got the ability to separate. As soon as it hits a membrane, it separates into positive and negative charge, right? And so having this structured water all through your body just allows metabolism to work properly. And as soon as you're going to do something, whether it's digest or work out or something, you're going to need more water.
I know people that I can think of two particular people that I've known that are very overweight. You can tell they're chronically dehydrated, literally don't piss. And they can't stand the taste of water.
Cool. Of course
so they're drinking beer and they're drinking coffee.
Diuretic.
They're arguing that that is enough, that the beer is enough, and shitty beer. I mean, there's a lot of healthier beers out now that are preservative-free, and some even argue that it actually is hydrating, but they're drinking crappy beers, coffee, and they're literally not pissing.
No, they're dreaming.
Overweight. They just look unhealthy. They're just... It's not a good energy. You know, I like them. They're friends, but it's not a good vibe to be around them, to be honest.
Yeah.
And just holding strong in their stance that the water's enough and the booze is enough, even though they're feeling like shit, they're overweight, they're not pissing. I mean, it's just blatantly obvious that they're dehydrated and just not healthy, but they just won't drink any water.
Look, I get it. Water is so ubiquitous. Who would have thought water would be so healing and so important? You know, it's just, it comes out of a tap. But no, it is. So I understand where they're coming from, but they've got to understand and just Google it. I mean, this is not controversial. Alcohol's a diuretic. I mean, beer is a diuretic. Coffee is a diuretic. That means for every 1 cup of that liquid you drink, you're going to pee out 1.5 cups of water because you're losing sodium and
until
other
you
electrolytes.
Stop pissing like these two people.
Now you can't. Now you can't. So now there's compromised tissue everywhere. So what does that mean? It means you're going to have a hell of a time digesting because you need optimal water in the digestive tract. It means your brain is shrinking. Literally, your brain's shrinking. That's one of the first signs. Emotionally unstable. It goes on and on and on. And none of this is controversial. Dr. Zach Bush is a great doctor for people who either want to Google some of this stuff. Zach Bush, and he's got some great videos and papers on water. And then there's Gerald Pollack, who's one of the heavyweights. Ling. Of course, Dr. Jack Cruz. There's all these amazing people with hard science on what water's doing. But this is what I found when I was naturopathing all the time, that the resistance, and you have to. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
But that those people are dying. When my wife got influenza, and she couldn't keep anything down, she got a really bad strain, and she was vomiting. It wasn't the flu that was going to almost kill her because she ended up in critical care. It was the fact that she was dehydrated.
Right.
She couldn't even keep water down. She was vomiting and breastfeeding, right? And day 2, day 3, day 4, all of a sudden she hadn't urinated for 2 days. Now we're in emergency with IVs. You know, that's how the dehydration would have killed her, not the virus. So to think that we can get away with not urinating, you're killing yourself.
Which is an interesting point. When Joe's mum was in hospice, she'd just gotten that bad that it just became the collective conversation to stop giving her water. That's what killed her.
Yeah.
You know, just long enough. I mean, of course, there was a lot of cancer that had taken over her body, but she was hanging on, not in a good way. But then there was that choice to, stop giving her water. And that's what was the final release into death. So it's a killer. It
is a killer. And if health and disease are two different conversations. And health is something we focus on and move towards. Disease is something that we're trying to avoid. And it's but from my way of thinking, even if you're in disease, just keep focusing on health. That's what, I'm a health specialist, not a disease specialist. So for me, get a disease specialist team on board, but you're going to win back your health by focusing on health, not disease. And so water is the foundation. And I bequest people start to do 40 minutes a week of just research for your own well-being and start with water. Because as soon as you realize it, and we're talking about drinking water, yes, do the experiment, because within days, if you can cut out, and that's what got me off coffee, was when I did the deep dive on hydration, intracellular hydration, and what that does to your health. I realized I've got to stop the diuretics. And I thought I'd never get off coffee because I'm an addict. I started feeling so good on all the water, and I realized, my God, the water, because I drink all my water chilled, because water at 4 degrees rehydrates the body way faster.
Does it?
Yeah, because this is the other thing where I don't want to get into, but temperature of water plays a huge role in the power of the water. So cold water is better.
Because there's the Ayurvedic argument, isn't there? Where
stresses out the gut.
Stresses out the gut, okay.
Do the experiment.
Right.
I mean, I'm Vata. Ayurvedic-wise, I'm a Vata type dude, so I should be hit easily. I should be the canary down the coal mine. If I drink cold water, empty stomach, and then try and it should affect, not me. First thing in the morning, out of the fridge, I've got big bottles of water. I just drink 500 mils. And it goes straight to my brain. And that energizes me as much as the coffee used to.
That's good to know.
Yeah, so I used to be like, oh, man, I need coffee or else I can't think, I can't get up. No, it's just what do you call it? I was addicted to I was a stimulant addict to the stimulant. Got rid of that and started hydrating well. And I just, boom, I pick up on just water alone. So, but then the other things is we need to, if you're lucky enough, get into the ocean. Cold water cold thermogenesis is one of the other ways that we work this whole quantum dynamic. And that's phenomenal as well. So just water in general, but it has to start with just drinking water.
So back to the 5G phenomenon. I mean, I've been up with the EMF conversation for quite a while, and ways to create a good environment to minimize the positive ions and generate more negative ions. And you've spoken quite a bit about the internal tools, the DHA and the good water, good hydration. They're kind of like inner shields, would you say, to build up this kind of negative ion kind of bank to create a resilience. So for like, say someone in a 9 to 5 or 6 to 6 life in a big building, they're filled with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and they're in shoes all day, they're in a high-rise building, just kind of EMF galore, positive ions galore. I mean, it's easy for us to say with our flexible lifestyles, we walk around barefoot a lot of the time, but for one that truly is having trouble finding time, like maybe they've got a couple kids and they just got to get straight out the door and put on their shoes and hop into that building, and then they come home and they're exhausted, and it is challenging. Undeniably, it's challenging to make conscious, intelligent decisions when you're just trying to get through the day and you're pushed. But just speaking to that person that's maybe listening to this on the way to a job like that, and they're like, fuck, I just want to get my feet in the ocean, I just want to jump in the ocean, but they can't until the weekend. Like it's something they do every now and then. I mean, we can always find time, but I can definitely relate now after having a couple of kids and being a caretaker to ill parents-in-law. Like I can relate now with a bit more understanding when sometimes there actually isn't time to go jump in the ocean every day, or to get sunlight at those optimum times, or to even get the feet on the earth. Can you speak to that type of person, of little things they can do, starting with the water, the DHA, the good dietary things, and then maybe some office tips or things to do with their phone, things to do with the internet as it gets more 5G and more amplified, that whole realm, speaking to that person?
Yeah, and this once again is my whole theme with my health research game at the moment, is inconvenience. You know, we're in a culture now where you'll be an outlier if you're healthy nowadays. You know, you're going to be, and that's a tragedy, because soon it's going to be just normal to be sick, and that's the problem. So we need to start to look at our jobs, because there's no easy hacks. We can't take a pill. We can't do anything. Light can't be undone. And we're talking, it's basically, this is a story about light exposure. So for those people, number one, I get it. So straight away, we take the stress out of it. You can still smile no matter where you are, and that does amazing amount of power to the body. You smile and you breathe. You can always smile and you can breathe. And you breathe consciously deeper and slower, and what that does is amazing as well. So there's all these immediate things we can do straight away. And what I would say to those people is that what we have to do is maximize our healing time. You heal when you sleep. So you're not going to be at the office when you sleep. You're not going to be in the high, whatever. So you must protect that environment, right? So what does that look like? Ideally, you've got to become conscious of what the blue light is doing, okay? Because this is the EMF, the electromagnetic frequency is a spectrum, right? And it starts from, and it's a spectrum of what? It's a spectrum of frequency, of energy oscillating, right? So it starts, like the first meaningful one is Schumann's resonance. That's the frequency that emits from the earth, right? And that's what is that? 5.7 or something? Something like that. It's very low. Anyway, but then it goes right up into the 400 plus, and that's when we see the visible light spectrum, right? 400, 700. I got all these numbers wrong, but it's around there. And these are natural EMFs, right? And our body is built on these things, right? The problem is now the non-native EMFs, when we start looking at radio frequencies, microwave frequencies, and all these type of ones where we're running Wi-Fi on now, we're getting to the terahertz. That's like trillions oscillations per second. And that's becoming biological. So there's nothing we can do except trying to avoid exposure there. So at nighttime when you come home from your job, start to look at what you can do to your bedroom. Can you somehow, number one, make sure you haven't got the power box on the other side of the wall where your bed is. There's an inverse
the
law.
Internet modem right by the
all
head
that stuff.
And,
I mean, that's just distance. Like I got a tri-field so I can measure it, and I was shocked because my bed was literally on the other side of the power box. So I get it, and I put the meter right up on the back of this board, and it's like the needle is off the chart. And as I pull it a foot away, and then when I get literally where my head is, luckily for me, it dropped right down to a minimal apart, and then like another foot over there, nothing. So for me, I was lucky. I just had to push the bed over, and then I've got to research some material so I can block that. But I started experiment by switching it off, so all the power off at night. My God, I was sleeping better. So there's invisible forces that we can get. So if you can do that, if you can get a kill switch, so you can just kill the bedroom stuff, the minimal amount. You don't want touch lamps, or look at all technology, because if it's Bluetoothed up, that's frequency. And let's call frequency it's a better word for us to call it radiation, right? Because that's a word that we know is not good. We know radiation can be harmful. So let's call the Wi-Fi and all of this what it technically is radiation. So if you've got a lot of radiation in your room, it's just impeding you from getting into a deep sleep, because that is you go down, oscillating down into deeper levels of sleep through frequency. Alpha frequency is the same exact frequency as Schumann resonance. It tells us that we're designed from nature. So from alpha, you start to go down until you eventually get down to like a theta delta wave sleep where you heal, and you heal in sleep. And we're not talking just about liver clearance and all this sort of stuff. We're also talking about psychological healing and things. It all happens in sleep. If that gets robbed from you, you're going to spiral down. So ideally try and protect your sleep environment. There's earthing mats, and I haven't looked into that technology, but I know there's amazing things you can put under your bed that earth out. So these technologies are available.
Turn the phone off for starters.
Don't have your phone in your room, man. Because, and this is just quickly, what these people have to do is, like I said, protect their eyes. So as soon as they're coming home, every time you put your computer on, or you look at an LED screen, a flat TV, that's all blue light. Mm-hmm. Blue light is the same frequency as when the sun is at its apex in the middle of the day. The blue light is coming through hardest from the visual spectrum. And what that says to our body, because it all comes with a program, that says to our molecular body, get busy. It's the middle of the day. You should be hunting, running, you should be eating as much food as you can. These are the messages that go through to us. So during the middle of the day, because of the blue lights coming through the hardest, and the antidote to blue light is the orange and red is lower, right? That's when we eat. That's when we're supposed to be eating. We're going to metabolize it. We're going to do all this crazy wow stuff. And then as the sun starts going down, the spectrum change is getting more orange, more red, right? And then that starts to calm us down. And that's the healing. You heal. These are healing colors. That's why with photobiomodulation, all these techniques, they're doing, ultraviolet red and all this stuff, healing stuff, right? So as the sun's going down, the colors have changed that we're exposed to. But then as soon as we come home and look at the TV screen, look at the LED flat screen, bang, get hit with blue light, the body thinks, oh, it's 12 o'clock because we run on circadian clocks. Our whole body runs on a 24-hour cycle and then you repeat it the next day, like Groundhog Day. And you can't undo light. So as soon as at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, you're looking at Facebook before you go to bed, you've just told the body it's 12 o'clock. What does that mean? That means that it's not going to have produced melatonin. And melatonin is the hormone that we produce from the light dropping off that puts us in a deep sleep. And if you deep sleep, you can still have that office job and you'll minimize your harm. So this is the first thing, is become educated on blue lit light. So what else does that mean? Because let's not kid ourselves. Just because, Uncle Heath up here is saying, let's do that. Everyone's going to go, oh, right, no, I'm not watching Game of Thrones tonight because until we get an old-fashioned TV or something. It's not going to happen. I get it.
Put on some blue light blockers, huh?
Thank you. Yeah. So what the solution is, a lot of us are running around now. We've got glasses on at night. And it's the blue blocking glasses. And you can get the best ones, which cost like $30 online, and they look like a pair of welding glasses.
Oh, well, they are, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They block out 100%. I wear those. Man, I sleep.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Great.
Can't get the wife into them. They need the more stylish looking ones, but they only block 50,
I got the stylish ones.
I got them as well.
Yeah.
But this is what we need to do. And we need to experiment, because if you feel it, it's real. If you think it might be right, then you could be wrong. You got to feel it. And so blocking the blue light becomes very important, and knowing why we're doing it. So that's the other thing. You got to be that person that's courageous enough to look different. Because I tell you, in 5 to 10 years, man, everyone's going to be doing it. Because this is like welding without a mask on or something. It's damaging the eyes. And I put a friend onto it the other day who was suffering depression. And I said, man, I'm not talking herbs, I'm not talking food, I'm not even talking exercise, I'm talking light, right? And I got him to do nothing but to wear these big, I gave him my ones, the welding kind of ones, and he slept hard that night, right. and he kept doing it, and he said, I'm noticing a difference, definitely. And he said when friends came over to stay, he embarrassed, he wouldn't wear them, and he noticed when he looked at the screen at night now, though, it hurts his eyes. And I was like, man, it always hurt your eyes, now you're aware of it. So people need to protect their it's called ALAN, artificial light at night. You got to minimize that. And for me now, the next step after doing that is I've realized that I'm getting tired early because I'm not stimulated, not opening up my Facebook at 9 o'clock, getting hungry because I just fooled my body. It's 12 blue light and I need to eat. So I'm not getting that, and I'm getting tired. So I'm going to bed by 9 o'clock, just after 9, waking up early, but I'm feeling better than I have for ages, and it's not because I'm taking certain herbs, amazing medicinal mushrooms, or this or that, or I haven't found the key vitamin or antioxidant. None of that. It's not. That doesn't even. It will never do this. This is just getting a good night's sleep where I go deep into the other world. So that's what these people need to do. They need to realize that, yeah, it's not all lost, but you have to minimize your exposure to these artificial lights. Get as much rest and deep sleep, and then when you can, get exposed to natural light and get your feet on the grass. And then what I'd also say to these people, because we think it's like, well, I work on the top story of a building, I've got several mortgages, whatever, I have to do this, family first, I get it. And bravo, by the way, too. You're a warrior. But keep a part of your mind looking for the possibility. Because you might find that, for example, maybe at 10 o'clock in the day, someone has to go down and get the coffee run. You could all of a sudden, and maybe the coffee shop's on the other side of a park. You know, you could say, "Hey, I'll get it." Get off, get to the park, take your shirt off, walk over barefoot. You know what I mean? You don't. There's always a way if you look. Maybe find a solution.
Yeah, I mean, how many minutes, if not hours, do they take just for that smoker break? That could be a get your feet on the grass break, get your shirt off, get your skin in the sun break.
100%. That's what I'm telling people nowadays. I say, like, a smoker will demand they have a smoko break.
Yeah.
You should be demanding a sun break.
And workplaces are changing. They really are changing. They're bringing in yoga. They're bringing in mindfulness. I've seen people... heard back from people bringing in those, salt lamps and ionizers and whatnot. Brilliant. And aromatherapy. And then all of a sudden more people are doing it. They're feeling the benefits and it's changing. And maybe if you are one of those people listening and you've got that workplace and none of these positive things are happening, be the leader. Someone's got to make the change.
Be a catalyst, man.
Yeah, and some people give shit to it, like you said about the glasses. I've been given shit about it. People that really care about me, that I'm dear friends with, give me shit about it. And next thing they know it, they've got them. So being resilient to being given shit if you are an outlier and doing things differently than the rest of the tribe, they'll probably give you shit at first. And who gives a shit? Yeah,
you don't give a shit when you've done the work. When you've read a little bit about it and you dug into it a bit, it's like, holy shit, man, we've really missed the boat on this one. We're focusing on food, supplements, antioxidants, anti-aging. None of it matters if you're getting bathed in artificial blue light at night. It's really obviously because we don't understand the physics of this planet. These are universal laws. Everything's running by it. We because of our arrogance, we think we can work around technology. No, absolutely not. You can't. And mind you, you're getting people with thyroid problems. Oh, so you wear the glasses. You got to remember this light goes in 2-3 mil, 4 mil through your skin. Your thyroid's getting blue lit. So, this is not a simple fix that we just got to wear glasses. We have to have another look at our tech. And so if you've got a major thyroid stuff and you are addicted to your computer, you wear a scarf. Block it. It sounds full on, but like I said, start studying.
You can even get those silver cloths.
Yep.
Jo was wearing them around her belly when she was pregnant, and you can get all kinds of different layers of clothing and scarves that are coated in that kind of silver cloth that apparently blocks a lot of the radiation. Yep. Do you know much about them?
Yeah, we got the same thing when Jessie was born, and all that sort of stuff. And this sort of section of this enterprise is coming. There's going to be more and more and more. You're going to hear more and more about blue light, more and more interventions, which is a good thing. So there's opportunity. Yeah, there.
I mean, it's wild. Like how rapid it's all changing into AI and 5G. And I mean, I don't even know much about it, but just from people that are a little bit in the know, it's mind-boggling how quick it's moving in the unknown. I mean, we're constantly in the unknown, but this technological movement, it's quite mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's taken us all by surprise, and it is super alluring too. When you start to look at what's going to happen when the Internet of Things kicks in and how that's going to change life, on the surface level, it looks amazing. All these new gadgets and things and all these time-saving things. And, now you don't have to do that because that's going to be automated. Oh, so now more time to do what? To do what? You know what I mean? We've got to wake up from this dream of a dream state. We've got to wake up because the information is coming out now. We are going down a path which is going to destroy us. And I'm not saying that lightly. Do you have a look at it yourself? Is what I'm saying to the people potentially listening here. Is that this is? I want technology. I love technology, but I don't want to suicide myself just so I can watch Facebook at night. We need to pull the reins back and then get these people making trillions of dollars out of all this tech to start to put some health, because no one's all the people regulating this are all invested. You know what I mean? It's the regulation, because people would think, and rightfully so, they'd think, well, look, if this was a big issue, I'm sure we'd know about it.
Right.
Really? No, because it's all about this. The research that they're still running with is these papers written 20-odd years ago on non-ionizing radiation. And that's what they run with, all the legislation.
Is it?
Right? That's why we've got cell phone stuff here and there, and now we've got this 5G going nuts, because they still run on this old, outdated science, which was on non-ionizing radiation doesn't do any damage to the cells. And now there's no less than 300-400 scientists saying they've got data saying that is wrong. But when you've got Samsung and everyone else running through with this, they're all in on the Internet of Things. All their money's in there. We're going to have driverless cars and all this sort of thing. All of this is possible because of 5G. That's changing the whole culture. It's like the reinvention of the wheel again. This is massive what's going to happen with 5G. So it ain't stopping. You know, we can protect. So it's up to the individuals to get educated and then minimize exposure. So, I mean, I think that's what we have to do. And you know, and remember that we've got the power. You know, humans are amazing. We're adaptable. But we're making this environment more and more non-native, more and more not livable for the human species. You know, I hate to know what's going to happen with bees and things like that.
Yeah. It is beautiful seeing the kind of rewilding movement and the kind of intentional discomfort movement, this whole cold water movement. Like, it does seem to be taking on some steam, some movement. And yeah, even the Hoggins type thing of appreciating pain, appreciating discomfort, because with all those technological advancements and everything happening so quick, I think people are collectively getting soft as well. And this kind of outrage culture mixed with that softness in people's nervous systems, there seems to be a flip in our culture as well of people seeking getting out in the wild, seeking their own harvesting of food and jumping in the cold water. It seems to be a smaller movement in compared to collectively, predominantly what's going on, but it is also beautiful to see what is happening with people getting more informed, getting more empowered, and consciously challenging themselves, because we're just going to get... I recall one movie. It's a kid's movie. Soleil watches it. And the earth gets so fucked up and so polluted that they had to escape to another planet. No, they created their own planet in a space vehicle. And everything's automated. They don't even have to feed themselves anymore. It's just everything's automated. And then they're just a big floppy mush of fat and just nothing. And it was actually I've got to find out what it is, and I'll leave it in the notes. It's Wall-E. Have you seen that?
No.
Wall-E. And yeah, it's a magnificent film, but it's pretty accurate, I think, on where we're heading predominantly collectively if we keep just getting lazier and relying on all these automated functions and not challenging our nervous system, not getting in the sun. Or this movie was really a portrayal of where we're heading very quickly.
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale. It's a huge cautionary tale, because everything they're selling us is so we can do less and less and be lazier, and it's leading us into a comatized culture. And that's why, like you said, there is this swing away culture now of people realizing that, man, that's not living. That, know thyself has always been my driving force in my health research. Know thyself. And the more you know about yourself, the more you become healthy, the more you resonate, and you just naturally, magnetically pull yourself into these things. And by, like you're saying, Goggins and these things where you put yourself into extreme situations, endure suffering, but with a mental quietude with your mind, that's when you start to know yourself. And that's when you start to become alive. And when you feel alive and you have just chi flowing through you, you're electric. And when you feel electric and you're buzzing, that is living now, right? Now you're a human. Now you've got this humanitarian buzz going off, and that's a blessing. And that makes the gods envious, that we're having this experience on this earth, transient as it is, but wow. What's happening now with our culture is everyone is just dumbed down and comatized, and they feel nothing except for that they're missing the next hit, the next dopamine hit. And whether that's sugar or junk food or watching some TV or whatever, it's all the same, man. And it's not living. And that's why we have an outrage culture, because it's the victim. You know, it's the loss of virtue. And you can't grow virtue by being sedate. You got to get out there and mix it up and get crazy and put yourself into freezing cold water where you think you're going to die. Yay, now we can start to live, man. In those split seconds now, you can bring your mind in and breathe. And I talk about the sun and water, but breath is one of those 5 principles, because you can't know yourself until you can control the breath, because when you control the breath, you control the mind. And when you can still the mind, you can finally see the bigger picture. And that's why I think for those of us that are pulling out and we're seeing where this is going. And it's like some multinational corporate demon is like dangling this carrot and everyone's going, let's go this way. You know, it's like, no, let's peel off and live. Because what's happening is that they're leading us into a docile state of being where no one's going to know himself anymore. And they're just going to be just tipping over this materialistic spending spree to keep filtering up the pyramid so these 63 families can get even wealthier. And it's just crazy, man. We don't need it. We don't need any of it. We need to connect with our communities again, all meet down at the beach Saturday morning when it's cold, and then just jump in the ocean and scream.
That's what I do love about my beach yoga sessions while we're here. Getting sandy. And you can see it get people quite uncomfortable at first, some people, in particular the Saturday that just went. It was a bit colder and a bit windier than usual compared to our perfect Saturday mornings that we've had before that. And you could see at first like this discomfort, but then after, people were ecstatic and they were radiant and present. And I really do love those beach yoga sessions because it is uncomfortable. Getting sand everywhere, it gets people uncomfortable. Weirdly, I mean, we've got perfect beaches. I mean, in Venice Beach where there's cigarette butts and just junk everywhere, yeah, that's one thing. You don't want to roll around in that sand, but we've got these impeccable beaches. We want to roll in that and get it in our skin and then jump in the ocean. And it's bringing all those things together that you're speaking of: the breath, the sun, the grounding, the cold water.
Wow.
It's a potent combination, you know.
And healing, because you have to reflect. Why was I uncomfortable? Oh, because I had this expectation where I want my skin free of sand or something. Like, what's that about? That's not living. So you can let that go overboard too, because like you said, it's how do you feel afterwards? Did you get the glow? Do you feel connected? Do you feel more energized? It's all of this energy. This is why the water, if you're dehydrated, the difference is someone that walks away from one of your sessions on the beach, getting grounded, getting earthed out, getting ionized, everything, that walks away going, oh, man, I'm so glad I did that. And someone else that goes, oh, that's uncomfortable. I wish we could be in a studio. One person was low dopamine, one was high dopamine. Right. One was dehydrated, one was hydrated. This is the difference, because the hydrated, high dopamine person can hold a charge. So they got charged up by that. Right. And then they're like, whoa, I'm feeling like this. And when you're holding a high frequency, a hold a charge, you perceive the world differently. You see it differently. You're a different person. You just logged on to a whole different channel. So it's an opportunity to see where you're at too. And then just go back to the basics, get the hydration and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's super important, because no one is feeling rewarded in their life at the moment that are following this, you know, the more and more Facebooking and more this and that. Nothing is making them feel good. So they go into this outrage culture, or the complain, or they become a hater online, or they start critiquing everyone because they're trying to get a buzz out of that. And that's just such a low-level buzz that just ends up in negativity.
Low-level buzz, it's so addictive, I think.
Super addictive.
That like you said, that dopamine hit. And you sensitize to it, you get hooked on it. And I think it's going to become, if it isn't already, like an epidemic, a real issue that is so new. I mean, we were brought up without all of this. So we can kind of reflect on the times before we plugged into this craziness. Yet a lot of these younger crew, I mean, for one, they were born into all of these radiations and whatnot. And then from when they can remember, they've had the phone in front of them for one, and then it's happening younger and younger now, apparently, of kids logging on to Facebook and Instagram, and it's becoming a norm. And this whole phenomenon of people identifying more with their social media image than with even the body and persona and relationship. And people are so connected on one level, yet so disconnected. And I think it's driving people mad, insane.
It is. And it's stealing people their opportunity to really just feel how amazing they could be, and that's a tragedy because it's a distraction. And I guess that's where my 20+ year health journey now has come back to just the most basic of natural phenomenon. And I'm realizing from someone that's specialized in food so much, now I realize, man, it's not even DHA is a big thing, right? And then green leafies are a big thing, getting a variety of that because you want the fiber because it's all the microbiome, all the microbes living in our gut. We've got to feed them because they're affecting most of the genetic material more than our little genome, So
it's pretty simple after all, huh?
It is simple, but it seemingly doesn't feel simple. And we've got to realize that we're a collective consciousness. This is where it gets really weird. That we, as a human, we have no choice but to be in a tribe, in a family. You have to. If you separated, we just don't work properly. You certainly won't feel optimal. So we need to find our people that are, and I'll tell you when you've found your people, right? They're positive all the time. They're not positive sometime and then they start shit talking and negative. No, they're positive all the time, right? They laugh. They laugh at things. Sometimes they laugh for no reason, right? They have interests and they talk about things they love. They don't talk about what they hate. Until you find those people, keep looking, man, and keep going to like your yoga thing, and then talk to people after, or go to here or there. Just but find the people, because it's only when we start to get together in these groups that there's a resonance that starts to affect everyone else subconsciously, because these memes are real, and a meme is a mental engram that gets passed on. We think it now is just some funny words over a picture, but it's actually a psychological tool. And that's where we have to get to the point with our kids, that we've got these pockets of positivity, because that's all we need as a human. We don't need all these amazing things that we can get. And I know no one thinks that the best car and the best apartment and all that is bringing them happiness. We're all way beyond that, as long as we've got the basics. But what we're missing now is these genuine coming together and celebration of people that are resonating with positivity. It's getting harder and harder to find that. And it's nothing's changed. You still need someone playing music and someone making the food. That's all you need, man. And that's all you need. But everyone's too tired to do that now, and no one's got time. Right. Everyone I'm talking to now, everyone's working. So where to from here, I don't know. But I think it's going to look like we need a crossroads moment where we start to think, okay, I guess it's back to community living again, but this time with business people, successful people, but we have to share resources so we don't have to work so much. Because for me, what I want now for my life, my family's life, is the ability at 10 o'clock to be able to get in the sun and just chill out and relax, get our clothes off as much as possible, get on and just do these things, because that means for that day I've released enough testosterone, I've released enough hormones to feel good. Because it's all very well me saying, yeah, drink water and put blue blocking glasses on. Everything else is still relevant. You still need a hormone profile that's up and everything else. And we know that the hormones are dropping off in our culture. Men are getting lower testosterone and things like that. And yeah, you got to do some squats and things, I get it. But let's treat the cause. And that's one thing I always got trained, and I always resonated with me right at the start of my career, was treat the cause. If you can't find the cause, don't stop looking for it. And it's very hard to find the cause for diseases too. Very hard. But now with this quantum awareness, we're starting to see, hang on, man, one of the main causal features here is that we're living out of synchronicity with our environment, and primacy of environment is everything. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what does that mean? We need, when I say worship the sun, doesn't mean just get a tan. I'm talking about understand what it is and get there and understand that those photons are looking for electrons as soon as it gets in the body. You need to be electron rich. That's fat. It's DHA. That's all we need to know about nutrition, source, and it has to be natural. I'm not into supplementing. Like I tried supplementing with algae oil. It didn't work for me, You got to have the real biological source of it, like these clams, oysters or mussels. That's it. Clams, oysters, mussels.
Clams, oysters, mussels. Right. The trio.
Yeah. Because they've got a complex of the iodine and the DHA. That's a whole nother discussion. Iodine and DHA in a complex together is super important. And then there's selenium in a complex as well. And all these things go in together, structured in a way that then just works in our body. So that's it. That's for me anyway.
Amazing, Heath. We're beyond what we said we would cap our time limit on. I want to respect your time, but I could listen to you talk for hours. I love you so much. Are there any projects or upcoming events you want to speak about?
Yeah, thanks, man. For that, I love you too. I love what you're doing. I always appreciate being asked here. I have. I've got my next workshop cooking class is the fasting mimicking diet, and that's on the 2nd of March. I don't know when you edit this up. Maybe
it'll be before then. Yeah.
Anyway, 2nd of March. But therawkitchen.com.au. Check out our website, and that's something I'm also passionate about because we talk about the water, we talk about the sunlight and things like that. But the other way to heal the body is to stop eating food. Fasting. Nothing can do what fasting can do as far as healing the body. But it's day 3, day 4, day 5, which the really amazing stuff happens. Intermittent fasting is excellent and all that, but I'm talking about a 5-day fast. And for those of us that have done 5-day fasts, we know it's hard.
And is that a full fast, like water or?
No, this is the thing. So what I'm doing is I've been following Walter Longo's work, South California University. He's got the research institute there, and he's the leading figure as far as I'm concerned on longevity and fasting and stuff like that. So he found out through his research that you can ingest 500 calories a day and not affect the fasted state. And this is backed up hard science. So the fasting mimicking diet is about getting that 500 calories in the right ratio. You don't want much carbs. You don't want too much protein. Getting it in there, and the body still triggers all the genetic information, and on a genetic level triggers the healing responses. You still get all that. He suggests maybe even better. So, and I think it would be better because the detox process requires proteins, requires this. The body starts to break all the damaged proteins down, and that's half-assed cancer cells or damaged immune cells. All of those guys get broken up straight away because after 5, 6 days, even 3 weeks of fasting, you don't lose muscle mass, which people are, no, you would do. No, if you do it properly, you don't. You break down all the damaged protein in the body and you recycle it. It's amazing what the body does. Anyway, this fasting mimicking diet, we can take in 500 calories a day. And that's a lot, man. If you know how to do that, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And so that's the next workshop. That one and
when is that? That's
2nd of March.
To get to that. That
man, yeah,
amazing.
You come. Let me know. I think it's 12:30. And this is the second time I'm running this one because I'm refining it more. And now that I'm a bivalvetarian,
I'm very excited about that. That is awesome information.
Yeah, I'm writing recipes at home where I'm putting in the clams because it's only 12 clams and clams are so small. It gives you an amazing amount of protein.
Wow.
No calories. So now for me, and at the fat, and the thing about detoxing is you want to detox out the fat because all the worst chemicals and toxins are fat. They store in the fat tissue. So when you're fasting and you've got a good quality of fat going through, it'll displace the damaged stuff and you'll release it without stress, But it also, you can get through that massive hunger phase because you're still having 500 calories. So yeah, that's the next one. And once again, like for me, I'm pretty healthy, but the reason I do it is mentally, it's a reset, man. Fasting is the best way to reset your mind.
Yeah, the topic of fasting has come up in pretty much nearly every podcast conversation. It's such a vital practice. And again, I think it can feed into the fasting of everything.
Yes.
Like it's a spiritual practice. For me, it is anyway, and it has been done in a spiritual context for thousands of years. And for me, it feels like it goes hand in hand with unplugging. For me, I love to do it when, okay, I'm going to give social media a break for a few days. I'm going to really make a conscious effort to limit how much blue light comes into me. And it becomes like a complete fast.
I love it.
And it feels great. It's a beautiful thing to do. So
something awakens in you. You know what I mean? And eating is fun. You know, there's a lot of fun things around, but what is important is balance. And you get to decide the balance, what your balance point is according to what you want to achieve in life. But like I said, man, the extremes, this is what we're designed for. You know, you feel stronger, better, more alive. And it's about feeling alive with the discipline. You got to have discipline.
There does seem to be, even on that, the flip argument that this whole fasting, there is a fad aspect to it. It seems to have taken on some steam and kind of a fad movement behind it. And then there's the polarity argument to that, and saying that is just another what would you call it? Mental blank.
Yeah, like just a fad, basically.
Yeah,
like
just a fad and eating disorder, of course. Right. Eating disorder, which it could be taken into a more toxic avenue, into an eating disorder. So I think it all comes down to intention. Like, why are you doing it? Is it just to lose weight, or is it to feel better? Is it to reset everything? Or intention seems to be important, doesn't it? Yeah,
100%. And you're always going to be wary of everything. And the way I've navigated my health journey is if it seems natural and it seems like we had to have done this to survive, the reason we're all sitting here is because our ancestors learnt to deal with feast and famine. And we're still designed for that.
Yeah.
And what is an eating disorder is eating all the time. That's an eating disorder. Forget.
Right.
Like we're not designed to be eating all the time, because the body can't go into, it's either digesting and assimilating food, or it's resting and repairing. It can't do both at once. They're completely two different metabolic pathways. It can't do one at the same time as the other. And that's why we heal at night, because we're not eating for a start. We go into rest and repair. And what we're finding out nowadays, a lot of insulin resistance and things like this is exposure to blue light and eating at the wrong time of day. So faddish, just the latest science coming through from my mind.
Yeah.
And what is and once again, a lot of these people that poo-pah all this sort of stuff, just look at your own life first before you, because maybe you're addicted to it and you don't want to change, and that's okay.
Great point.
But man, that's what I've noticed. When I used to do it with coffee. Every workshop I'd give, the question would come up, what about coffee? And because I was a coffee addict, I would tell them the science for, tell them the science against. Unless you're adrenal fatigued and in the morning you can't do without it, then a little bit is probably okay. But that was coming from me as an addict. I didn't know the hydration problem at the time, and I was addicted. So I'd always justify why I shouldn't have to give up. And I think we do that with everything, food, because we're designed to go through moments of not eating, and you have to do it, or else your insulin metabolism goes funky, and everything else goes out of whack. And the only way we stay charged up and just charged up and full of life is when we push ourselves to extremes all the time, because it sends the message that, hey, stay alert, stay hot. And we got to do that. Throw yourself into cold thermogenesis, into cold oceans, see what happens. Stop eating for a day, see what happens. You just become more alert.
Maybe don't turn the air conditioner on next time you get a bit hot.
Walk outside sometimes without you'll get a cold or a flu. Make sure everything else is in order as well. Never go extreme in one way. Always just lean into the edge. Don't go crazy. Make sure you get the priorities right, that you're getting 8 hours sleep a night. Because I can tell you, after 20 years of studying this stuff, looking for every magic pill in nature, that getting a 8 to 9 hours sleep, of a deep sleep with Wi-Fi and everything off, I wake up better than ever. And no herb, anything can do that. Nothing. It's just sleep, you know. My mind feels clearest after I've exercised or after I've fasted for a while. Nothing did that. So it's all these things. We just got to get back to it and just do the experiment. But priorities, deep sleep, try and get sun exposure and limit your artificial light at night, and chase DHA fats in your diet. Have a look at the bivalve thing. If you eat a lot of meat, great, maybe less red, and have a look at the bivalves, because it's the best thing for the oceans as well. It's the most sustainable form. That's why for me it ticked every box. It's sustainable, no suffering for these things, and it fixes up all the nutritional problems in a plant-based diet. Huge for me. I mean, you know, I will continue to do the experiments. I'll continue to get blood work done and monitor it. But what I'm saying to everyone that you know, listens to me as well as other people for some health advice, I'm saying let's go this way. You know, especially what I call vegan rehab. You know, people that have fallen off the vegan thing and think, wow, I tried the vegan diet, it's not for me. It's like, yeah, you tried the old-fashioned one.
Right.
That's just some dude 60 years ago wrote the rule book and said da-da-da-da-da. It's all very well, but times change, man. And there's no suffering. So what's the problem? Just because it is a meat. Oh, well, another inconvenient truth. But it is not a sentient being that doesn't suffer. So eat it. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And feel the difference. Well, and then instead of doing that, maybe then you don't have to eat the cow and the pig and the this and that.
Yeah. You
know, that clearly is an emotional sentient being. You know, if you can't see that, no probs. But and if you still want to eat it after that, hey, absolutely no judgment as well.
Yeah.
You know, no judgment on that. All I'm saying is that let's get the balances right. If we can all pull back to this source of nutrient, take some pressure off the planet, that's a good thing.
Well, even that excessive judgment, I mean, of course, when you're seeing an animal getting hurt, it's been done in a very immoral and just a way that doesn't work. It's not going to work for any longer. Like we've run that to the end without a doubt. The way we've treated animals, the way we've eaten animals, the way we pick out our meat from the shelf. That's a very old model. It's outdated. It doesn't work anymore. That's a given. It seems a radical shift is needed, but the judgment. And I've done it as well. When I was just extreme vegan, I was up on that stance, heavy. And anyone that ate meat, I judged them heavily until I just started listening to a bit more informed education and not just a more extreme, fanatical reaction, which is emotional. It's an emotional reaction that's legit. It's very valid when you're seeing an animal getting hurt. It's been very imbalanced for so long, yet it just further polarizes our culture. Vegans versus carnivores, that whole game that we spoke of a lot in our first podcast together, that war, that mini culture war. And I felt when I dropped my stance and I just had a bit more understanding and compassion for where people are coming from when they're not connected with the meat they're buying off the shelf. That is the norm. It's the norm of our culture, and it radically needs to shift. People like yourself are bringing a really wise conversation to it that doesn't really have a stance, just really educated, really informed, so much wisdom there. We need to listen to that type of thing. And yeah, get informed, get educated on what's actually going on rather than the extreme stance, which is just creating more divide in our culture. It's not really helping anyone, it seems, huh?
No, I agree 100%. I think so. We don't need to hold on to our belief system so tightly that it hurts, you know. And yeah, I agree. Let's look at new ways and let's look at ways that make sense, because it is all dialing in. You can feel it, man.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all dialing in now, and I can't help. I know when you think you've hit the 0 point, something else happens. And I get that. We know nothing. I know. But I can feel on one level that it's dialing in when we start to get into the hierarchy of things that, hey, light we're light beings. You know, we literally are born from stars. The sun is a star. It's plasma. All the liquid in our body, this fourth phase water, the structured water, the EZ water, that's a plasma. Mm-hmm. So it kind of it's like a liquid that acts like a gas or whatever, but it's the same as the sun, man. And when we start to look at this on a metaphysical level, it all starts to drop in. It's like, oh my God, of course we have to modulate ourselves with the sun. Of course we have to drink water. The mind gets online when this body is charged up and can hold a frequency. And it's completely different than a low resonant, low dopamine life. And that's why we focus on health. That's why we do everything, because it all does the same thing. It all pushes ourselves to a free flow of chi through the body where you remember what you came to do and you remember that it only makes sense if we do it together. You know, and this is the beautiful thing. So probably we can close on that.
Yeah.
And just keep to say how important these sort of podcasts things are. When you're driving, why not just listen to – I mean, it takes – you know, I get it. I listen to a podcast that's an hour and a half. It takes me 3 times. I listen to the first 20 minutes and then I listen to the next 20 minutes. But the best part of the podcast is always the last 20 minutes, man. So it's best to –
No, a good note to leave on.
Yeah.
I love your vision. I love your message. I love your lifestyle. I love you so much. And I'll let you get back to your beautiful family, back to the raw kitchen. I'll leave links below to a lot of those references we were speaking of and to Heath's businesses, the Raw Kitchen, Gypsy Elixirs. And yeah, keep in touch with his work. He's a genius. He's a visionary. Really doing awesome work in the world. Much love, Heath.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening.